Hello there and welcome to Business Nigeria. I am Tolulope Ogunjobi. Well, let's look at some top stories in the world of business, particularly in Nigeria today. Well, indeed. Now, India is set to organize an international expo on information communications technology as part of efforts at deepening bilateral relations with Nigeria. India's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Nagambusha Reddy, says the two-day event, which is billed for next month, is expected to attract more than 200 companies from India and 14 countries across the world. Reddy said the gesture will support the penetration of ICT as a major component of the economic development in Nigeria. Trade relations between Nigeria and India currently stands at $100 billion. 3 years after unveiling the Code of Corporate Governance for Telecommunications, the Nigerian Communications Commission is set to entrench the law in the industry. The commission gathered key players in the sector to a sensitization workshop in Lagos.
According to the National Bureau for Statistics, ICT has contributed about 9.8% to the nation's GDP in the last 1 year. The telecom sector in the last 16 years has pulled direct and indirect investment worth more than $68 billion. And the NCC wants to sustain this growth recorded so far.
Today's event by the NCC, which is to provide a further opportunity for stakeholders to review, critique, suggest improvements to, and accept and own what is going to be a mandatory code, is well in character of the NCC and is commendable.
The regulator says this engagement with critical key players is to entrench accountability and position the sector in the global map. As such, the Commission has made the code mandatory for licensees.
There have been checks and balances all along, but today is the fastest growing industry, the telecommunication industry. So you find all over the world, things are changing rapidly. This is not the first time we're applying sanctions or offering rewards.
Service delivery, like you know, is at the front burner of our progressive regulation. The consumer will benefit by enjoying more qualitative, telecommunication services, because we are trying to introduce in the corporate structure of telcos people who can transform those telecommunications companies.
Though many telecom companies have crashed due to internal management issues, the NCC believes the code will help stabilize and restore confidence during such difficult times.
The reward is clear. Even without NCC as a regulator giving a reward, you know that if you perform very well, you will attract investors. The reputation of your company will be enhanced. Your returns will also be enhanced. And the industry benefits ultimately.
If they have put in a code of corporate governance and we've all signed up to it and agreed to it, and we believe that the regulators are sole regulator. So yes, if we do well, we get rewarded. If we do badly and we are not, we're falling short, they should be able to step in and say, look, there's meant to be sanctions.
Some members of the panel disagreed at the tenure limit for the board, but the regulator says the code is still a working document. The strategic partners say the Code of Corporate Governance for Telecoms may not be a perfect document, but believe with conducive environment and right composition of the board, the sector will compete favorably in the global space.
Now let's get the view of the Minister of Communications, Adebayo Shitu, on the development of ICT in Nigeria.
The government is determined to promote local content in the area of software and hardware. any Nigerian initiative which is original will be given spectacular promotion and patronage by the government. For those which are foreign, we will also patronize them in so long as there are no local equivalents of them. But generally, Nigeria is a very big market and all are welcome. We have a huge population which is getting, updated in terms of education, in terms of exposure to ICT. We now appreciate that ICT is the way to go if we want to develop our economy faster than oil has done. It is salutary to say that as of today, the ICT industry engages more hands by way of jobs than even the petroleum industry. And again, for the first time, ICT has produced all of, a little above 10% to the gross domestic product. Our hope is that eventually ICT will be the major plank of our income into the Nigerian economy by way of revenues and also, incomes for the ordinary, people of this country.
Adebayo Shitu added that Nigeria needs more investments in information technology to advance the economy.
The challenge essentially is getting more investments. We know that Nigeria has been in recession. It is also a good thing that we are getting out of recession sooner than expected, but we need a lot of funding. If we cannot get locally, of course, we will have to rely on direct foreign investment into Nigeria. We are encouraging the international community to come in and invest because Nigeria has a very huge population which is also educated and very buoyant, boisterous, and so on. So we are hoping that in the next few years, we will have moved very far from where we are today.
Nigeria has retained its 137th position in the World RCT Development Index. This is contained in the IDI Index report by the International Telecommunications Union, ITU. The report shows that Nigeria ICT sector recorded 2.72% growth in 2016 as against 2.48% in 2015. On the fixed telephony subscription, the Nigerian ICT sector recorded 0.10% growth out of every 100 inhabitants, while in the mobile cellular telephony subscriptions per 100 inhabitants, there was 82.10% coverage. The percent of households with computers in Nigeria was 9.84% in 2016, whereas the percentage of households with internet access in Nigeria currently stands at 11.40%. In the same year, 2016, for individuals using the internet, Nigeria recorded 47.4% in 2016, while the active mobile broadband subscription per 100 inhabitants in Nigeria was 20.9%. To put this in perspective, I have with me a software consultant in the studio, Idowu Akinde. Thank you very much for joining us, Idowu.
Thank you, Tolu.
A lot has been highlighted already. Yes.
Let's
look at the potential of the ICT sector in Nigeria. Do you think we are there?
Okay. Thank you for the audience. In terms of potential, obviously we are not there yet. Okay. There's still much more that we can exploit. Okay. In addition to all of the numbers that you've reeled out, let me just quickly add that India's outsourcing industry, IT outsourcing industry, was last year valued at $100 billion. And I've always opined, I've always expressed that I don't see with all respect to Indians, I don't see what Indians can do that Nigerians cannot do. It gladdens my heart to hear from the Minister of Information and Communication that the government will actively support and promote all locally homegrown software and hardware IT innovations. That's music to my ears. So I want to see that 20.95% become 50% in the next year. I want to see that 44% internet penetration rate that you mentioned a few moments ago. I want it to become 80% in the next year, and maybe 100 and something percent in 2 years' time. There's so much more that we can do, and there's so much more that is just waiting to be tapped. You know, so in summary, that's what I think about the potentials.
Looking at, we find ourselves in recession. That's no more news.
Okay.
And many are saying the ICT sector could also be a way out.
Okay.
We're talking about diversification, and
Okay.
when we keep talking about agriculture, I know there are lots more than agriculture. We have the entertainment industry,
Yes,
which
sir.
is yet to be harnessed. When we had the rebasing, which Nigeria was ahead of South Africa, though I think with the dollar issues now, South Africa is now ahead of Nigeria, you know. But looking at all of this, how would you assess the level of jobs being created now, and maybe what we could have if we are doing better? Computer Village is an example for you.
Okay, so I think that again, ICT is one of those latent opportunities that we have, and I hope we are not sleeping on this opportunity. You know, reason being, I'm an IT professional myself, and I know the kinds of potential and opportunities that are in this field, which is why I want to appreciate, statements from the ICT minister, you know, like the one he just made, that he will actively support locally homegrown solutions. However, directly to answer your question, in terms of the ability of this sector to lift Nigeria out of this economy, this is one of our biggest opportunities, and this is one of the most lucrative potentials that we have right now. Imagine if there was some policy that said, you know, imagine if there was some policy that said every final year computer science student in all the universities across the country must register with a real ICT firm and learn relevant programming languages. You know, just imagine initiatives like that. You know, those things will jumpstart and, you know, help us make the leap from where we are now to where we could be. Like I said again, India is making 100 billion every year from IT outsourcing, and many of them are in India outsourcing to other countries. There's nothing that stops any Silicon Valley or UK or Germany or German company from outsourcing their IT requirements to us, and we'll serve those. We'll set up data centers here, and we'll set up, you know, contact centers here, and we'll serve those companies all over the world. You know, if it can be done in India, it can be done in Nigeria. You know, so it's a big opportunity, and it can contribute significantly more than 9.8%. 9.8% is a pittance. I don't see any reason why IT cannot contribute at least 25% to the Nigerian GDP.
I'm looking at $100 billion.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Compared to,
well,
I'm looking at what that will be contributing to the GDP of India.
I mean, you can just imagine.
That cannot just be overemphasized. But you know, in all of this, Nigeria, I want to be we are Nigerians. This Nigerian factor comes in. Lately, there was supposed to be an investment in the IT sector that I think was diverted to South Africa. And in all of this, infrastructure comes in. Where do we go? We have issues with our broadband, internet challenge, and all of that.
Okay, so I particularly, like, without sounding like I'm patronizing the ICT minister, what I just saw, in terms of the rhetoric, the tone, the body language of the ICT minister, and specifically his words are exactly what we need. So what we need to do right now is amplify that message. Anybody who has a Twitter account, who has a Facebook, words are exactly what we need. So what we need to do right now is amplify that message. Anybody who has a Twitter account, who has a Facebook account, who has a LinkedIn account, please amplify messages like this, you know, so that people outside the country can see that Nigeria is a viable investment destination, and we can attract more foreign direct investments. I don't think that the government, the Nigerian government, can effectively close the gap in infrastructure, especially critical infrastructure necessary for ICT, of course. Other things like power, they can take care of that. But I think that for ICT infrastructure, I think that we need FDI for that. We need foreign investors to come in and invest. And, you know, if you think about a foreign investor, if you were not in Nigeria right now, you were somewhere else, you would be weighing options. You would be weighing India, Asia, South Africa, Kenya, you know. And so what are we doing to move ourselves to the top of that list that investors have, list of potential destinations? So that's what I think. That's why I like this rhetoric, this body language that's coming from the ICT minister. And I hope that we all as citizens can amplify it.
Indeed, amplifying that. Well, let's take a break now, and we'll be right back. We'll still be here, and we'll still be talking more on issues surrounding the ICT sector in Nigeria. Stay with us on the show. It's Business Nigeria. Thank you for staying tuned. And I still have with me here an IT expert, Idowu Akinde, who's been discussing issues surrounding Nigeria's ICT sector and the move by the government to actually harness the benefits, present in this sector, which we've not actually taken advantage of, like you said. Now, the package we ran earlier on the Nigerian Communications Commission, talking about the code of governance. This is instituted by the NCC. In straight terms, what advantage would this bring to the sector?
Okay, so generally in business, the more a business is structured along systems and processes and away from a one-man command and control type of system, the greater confidence that business will, invoke or attract from external third parties who are looking at it. So, for instance, if I were to invest in, if I had 3 alternative companies to invest in, whether I'm a Nigerian or I'm from outside the country, one of the things I would be looking for, to qualify this investment decision would be to determine which of them has a code of corporate governance. So this is a very welcome development by the NCC. I like that. It makes a lot of sense. And the immediate short-term advantage is that local consumers of the services and products that these ICT companies are putting out, aka the calls that we're making, the data connections that we're doing, our local consumption of those services will improve. So if there are systems and processes that govern operations across all the telecoms companies in Nigeria, the general average quality of service that we receive should increase. So that's the immediate benefit. The long-term benefit is that investors who probably last year were considering investing in 1 or 2 or more of our local telecoms companies, if they hear this news now, can we evaluate those decisions, those considerations, and say, okay, now that they have corporate governance, let's reevaluate, and that could mean more dollars coming into the economy.
As we round up, talking about standards, some equipment, I'm always, Nigerians are worried that maybe at times we make this country almost a dumping ground, and we have some equipment, IT equipment that are not meeting up with standards.
Okay, so that comes to, again, I'm not sure if that comes to the NCC or if that is yes, that would be the standards agencies, NIS, SON. Obviously, we need to tighten that side. Right now, Nigeria is unofficially one of those e-waste countries, but we need to work a bit on that. Our regulators need to tighten the controls around the minimum acceptable standards for electronic devices and products and other materials that come into the country.
Indeed. Idowu Akinde, I must thank you for your time.
Thank you very much
on the show, sharing your views on this sector. I know you're passionate about the ICT sector.
Thank you very much.
Very nice having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, from the ICT sector, it's crude oil. Now, the price settles at 3 weeks low on Wednesday as OPEC and United States crude output grows. The European Brent steadies at $51.16 per barrel, with an increase of 36 cents from Tuesday's quotation. OPEC's reference basket oil price drops by $1.33 to sell at $49 per barrel in mid-trade. Well, that's a package for you today on Business Nigeria. Join us another time for more insightful and detailed analysis. On behalf of the entire production crew, I must thank you very much for watching. I'll leave you with the figures of the exchange rate as it stands today. Bye for now.